Afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am Franz Machado. I think just as we begin, most of you knows me, but I must declare that I'm here today in my capacity as these two gentlemen's media liaison, and I'll be the one that is facilitating this media briefing. So we've got Mr. Letsoalo and Mr. Sefotle Modiba. So I'm not going to waste more time, but I think one thing that is very important that we need to just acknowledge is the change of time, and apologize on that for the inconveniences caused, but we had to do that because we had an oversight of the funeral of the late former Deputy President of South Africa, Mr. David. So we had to then postpone to this time, and we apologize for that. And maybe, if I may, just a quick moment of silence in honor of the late Deputy President Modiba. Thank you. So I'll not waste time. I'll ask Mr. Modiba to be the one that starts with his presentation or his issues.
Okay. Yeah, let me maybe just start. And I'm cognizant that we started slightly late. I'm hoping that we'll catch up on the time that was listed through this afternoon. We are here because of the disagreement of myself and the suspended CEO, because of all the issues that have transpired over the past couple of months. And I think it's quite important for us to then indicate to South Africans our version of the story, because it looks like everywhere you go, as much as you can trumpet your facts, it looks like they are not heard of the point that here. My name is Sefotle Modiba. Until the 17th of June, I was the acting chief investment officer for the Judicial Fund, and have since been suspended. I prepared a briefing, a presentation for us here, which then gives the context into which I want to relay my message, so that I can indicate some of the drivers that I think are quite important in terms of the decision for my suspension. And I'll start with a sequence of events in terms of the timeline. I think I joined the Road Accident Fund in 2020, and in me joining the fund, there were a number of things, and one important issue that emanated at that time was this thing called JZ, where it was indicated to me that if nothing happens, there will be this day wherein we will have bit of executions that would amount to the monies that are received in terms of fee levy, and the RAF will come to a halt. And that was a rude awakening for me in terms of the organization that I joined at that time. And I know that to transform an entity like the Road Accident Fund will take courageous people to think of out-of-the-box methods to making sure that the RAF then sustains security. Most people don't know at home what the chief investment officer does in the context of the Road Accident Fund, and I think it's quite important for me to explain briefly what my role is in the main at high level. My role requires for me to stratify the liability, and that simply means that I need to understand the drivers of the high growth of liability and make sure that those are arrested or curbed, to making sure then that the liability is reduced. And after understanding the characteristics of the RAF liability, my role will be to then assess the available cash resources, which will then could be matched against those liabilities, so that when liabilities fall due, they could be redeemed or not paid. And lastly, as part of matching these liabilities with the available assets, we need to make sure then that I optimize operations to making sure that there's available liquidity all the time. And by liquidity, I'm talking enough cash resources to pay obligations on the booking. And the objective really of the chief investment officer is to make sure that the desired liquidity levels are maintained as part of supporting the overall strategy. And this becomes extremely important in terms of what we are going to go through and what I found out of it. What did I find? I found out that the fuel levy that was received is very small compared to the liability obligations that were at that time rising. The short-term liability was projected to close at 54 billion rand. This is a deficit by March 2024. And in November of 2019, it was sitting as high as 19.7 billion rand. I found out that you've got postulations, and postulations is really future projections of what any person would earn, an accident victim. I found out that there is every report from experts talks about an accident victim who was going to be a CEO, an astronaut, and so forth, which does not match the demographics of South Africa. And it's impractical. There were inflationary increases on term administration costs, but yet you found that the fuel levy was not increasing. And of course, over time, the 218 cents fuel levy will be eroded by the effect of inflation. And therefore, the buying power of the amount of money that we receive today versus the buying power that it had 3 or 4 years ago is low. And then you had a lot of claims which were not paid, and therefore the liability book of the road accident fund had higher daily. On the operational risks that I identified, I talked about the day zero scenario. The cash management strategy which was in place was approved in 2016. It was updated. It didn't address the challenges that were facing the fund at that time. I identified that there was cherry picking and prioritization of claim payments by certain employees within the road accident fund, driven by bribery. And I found out that there was a corporatized, intentional approach to prioritizing certain legal firms' claims over others. And this thing was termed fixed allocation. So you had a few legal firms, predominantly white, who would then get the biggest slice of the fuel levy as it gets paid into the fund account, while the marginalized would have certain claims of theirs which were not paid. And some of these claims were sitting at over 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 days of age, versus these other prioritized ones whose their age was sometimes even lower than 30 days. I found out that there was lack of robust payment operational framework. And one of the things that I picked up early on was payment of undocumented foreign nationals. In South Africa, when you have to transfer monies across the border, there's a limit that is imposed by the Reserve Bank's Exchange Control Department. Now, those payments that were made to foreign nationals which were undocumented, one has to ask the question, where would their proceeds have been paid into? Because you can't have a bank account when you're not documented. because banks would stick by the strict prescripts of FICA, what we call know your client, and therefore this money that would have been paid to the attorneys in favor of foreign nationals who are undocumented. Where does it go to? Of course, there were certain attorneys who were suspended from the Legal Practice Council who were still practicing. And they wanted payments to be made into their business and transmission accounts versus claim payments which are trust monies. We found out that there were claimants who have since deceased, but the rest wanted for payments to be made. And you ask yourself, on these payments that are yet to be made to deceased claimants, where does this money go to? We found, of course, fraudulent claims and fraudulent court orders. It was quite a surprise because you assume that the legal fraternity are honest, legally sound professionals. But the minute you find a fraudulent court order, then you ask yourself whether this that you've been believing is true or not. And then, of course, we found payments in duplicate. This was about 1.2 billion rand that we've identified. Paid through sheriffs, paid to attorneys, through various means. What did we do? The first thing that was done was to stratify the liability so that we can understand its characteristics and drivers thereof, so they could be arrested. Coupled with that, as part of the cash management strategy, we sought a 45A court order, which simply means that we will make payments in 180 days for all claims, personal claims at least. Which then gave us a breather to implement our quality control framework, which was extremely important in the sustainability of the liquidity of the Road Accident Fund. How did we do this? So, the issue of undocumented foreign nationals, of course, we put certain requirements. We wanted entry and exit passport stamps, copy thereof. We started integrating our processes with Home Affairs to check ID numbers of claimants. In other instances, we found out that those people don't even exist, or the ID numbers are wrong, and so forth. We then, as part of this quality control framework, implemented a firewalls between certain functionaries to making sure that there is no overlap of operations. Because if there's an overlap, then there would be that cross-pollination of information, which then may well take effect. Of course, the employees who were found guilty through employee relations processes were dismissed. Some of them were reported to the SIU, so that other processes can kick in. We also identified attorneys who would have been paid once, and they then come again through issuance of writs and sheriffs to get paid the second time around, which could be seen as trying to defraud the state, because then if you are paid the first time around and that's a full and final settlement of your claim obligation, why would you then try to force the Road Accident Fund through the sheriffs for you to get payment the second time around? We engaged with the SIU. We all of these challenges that I'm talking about, the SIU knows about them. Of course, that came with it a price on our lives. We've been receiving threats. I mean, the last time I received threat was probably maybe as late as end of May. I know someone sent me a text saying that we will find you. without toll. In translation, you think RAF's money is your mother's, and we'll find you. And this has been going on, of course, in a duration that a person has been there. So there's definitely people who are disgruntled by what we did at the Rolex Fund. And I'm not sure maybe that's why this led to my suspension. But then out of that, our results are showing. I mean, this is just a piece of the bigger strategy. There's other functionaries that would have contributed to this picture. And this picture really tries to make a comparison, at least at a high level, between the three previous strategies, or the two previous strategies, and the strategy that we implemented from 2020 to 2025. Certainly from the department that I was running, we saw the decrease in the RMYP. RMYP meaning short-term debt, from 19 billion to close at about 8.27 billion rand in March of 2024. And if you compare the 8.27 billion rand closing balance versus the 54 billion rand that was projected when we took over, that tells you the extent of the impact of our measures. I must indicate that these challenges that I spoke about here obviously happened under the previous our predecessors, and I haven't had any talk about the previous management, because it would seem as if everything that we're doing now is new. And this is not new. This is what we found out. This is what we are fixing. And for whatever reason, there's this talk about RAF not being sustainable, RAF not operationally sound, and so forth, which is not true. So, given that background of my role at the Road Accident Fund, why was I suspended? There was a lot of talk from the chairman of SCOPA about the charges that were laid against me from my previous employer, which was the City of Johannesburg. Some of the media houses wrote a story about them. They try to connect what they call vetting at the RAF against these charges. And there was a lot of maligning my name on the public platform, especially when the committee sits. And I felt extremely attacked every single time when something is said about me without me being given a chance to respond in the same committee meeting. Now, this was, of course, sent through to my legal team. They wrote to the chairperson of SCOPA about these issues, of which he responded, indicating that he's concerned about vetting itself, which is extremely important, this vetting part, because my vetting was probably at the tail of it when I was suspended. I'd given the State Security Agency all the information that they wanted. They were still going on with their processes, but the bulk of the process of vetting was done, and this was almost complete. And in there, I mentioned that SCOPA chairperson's correspondence citing concerns over vetting of RAF Executives. I've got attachments that I can provide to everyone. Post my concerns with the SCOPA chairperson's remarks, my lawyers wrote him a letter. He responded saying that the mayor of the city of Joburg wrote back to him indicating that I left the city of Joburg before employee relations process to be finalized, which is not true.
Which is false. And I've got evidence to that. And I can provide it. Wherein correspondence between my legal team then in 2020 and the city of Joburg's legal team indicates that the charges that were laid against me at the city of Joburg were withdrawn fully, all of them. And this was before I joined the Road Accident Fund. So when I joined the fund, there were no charges to even declare. I declared them much later, I think about a couple of months later or a year later, so I can't remember. But if one had to look at it, the Road Accident Fund did screening like it would any other senior manager who was joining the fund at that time. And they would check things like criminal records, whether your qualifications are legitimate and so forth. That was done. The extent of the vetting that would be done by the State Security Agency was not done at that time. It was only post these talks that the process kicked in, as it would for every other executive in the Road Accident Fund. Now, when these utterances were made by the SCOPA chairperson, what did I do? Of course, the RAF board was very concerned. They asked me for this correspondence that I can share with everyone here. And I indeed provided that correspondence to show that there were no charges pending against me when I left my previous employer. They continued to suspend me despite this evidence that I provided to them. And it's very unfortunate that sometimes we come to this impasse on whether something is made out of racial connotation or not. Because currently, as I'm speaking, my substitution is a young gentleman, very professional, but he's white. And he's not vetted. And he does not even have an experience to run an investment management team. So you then ask yourself, was it because of the background that I gave you about the quality assurance framework that I implemented, which then served out or excluded those claims which should not be paid, or the questions that I asked about why we're paying a claim when we can't even identify and verify the identity number of the claimant? Was it the case? Or is it a question of, as a black person you must be vetted, but as a white person it's okay for you not to get vetted? The risks that I'm seeing from this suspension, and this is for South Africans in particular, is that the very same challenges that were emanating when we joined the RAF, when we turned it around, are going to come back again. The progress that was made in the past 5 years, like I've shown the three graphs comparing the 2010 to 2015, 2015 to 2020 strategies against 2020 to 2025 strategies, wherein every eligible claim which should be paid was paid. Of course, within 180 days. In some instances, we would go as low as, like we did in March of 2024, went as low as 12 days, 8 days, paying claims, which was unprecedented in the fund. We are running the risk of going back there. The challenges that were faced by South Africans at that time could actually come back again to haunt us. Of course, growth in this liability that I've indicated to you guys, that it reduced from 19 billion to 8 point somewhat billion rand. Those successes may just well be reversed. I'm going to pause there and take questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm not taking questions now. Okay, just a moment. But I'll allow Mr. Letsoalo now to take us through his presentation. We will take questions after Mr. Letsoalo's presentation. Mr. Letsoalo?
No, thank you very much, South Africans. Thank you very much to the media. My condolences to the Mabuza family and the ANC family and everyone in South Africa. We lost a leader, and to them we say our deepest condolences coming from all of us, including my own family. Now, mine is gonna be a bit longer, but mine is going to focus a bit on other things. I think I've touched on the issues it's coming, okay. Is the issues around the RAF, and I think okay, you want to be closer to me? Okay. You want it closer? Sure. Right. Okay. So ours has been a journey of victimhood, where we are just victimized all the time, and one does not know why we are victimized. Firstly, it would seem that people want to believe that when we arrived at the RAF, everything was fine, and there can never be truth to that. There can never be truth to that. RAF was just repurposed into a looting vehicle that people could do lawfully. When one law firm could easily make 1.2 billion a year, it must tell you a story. When this thing is busy collapsing. But I'm going to take you through this thing, because I think South Africans must know what we deal with. We are dealing with corruption, and this corruption permeates itself right across the legal fraternity. But quite unfortunately as well, our judiciary comes from the legal fraternity. So the question you must ask yourself is, when is this Damascus moment, when this plaintiff attorney or panel attorney of the RAF suddenly becomes a judge and suddenly becomes honest? We must ask ourselves that question. And I'm going to show you that there is no Damascus moment. There are people that have done that, and we have got evidence. And people will always say, when we talk about the judiciary, no, must give us evidence. We give them evidence, they ignore it. I'm going to show you that they do ignore it. We write to them, and they want us to go to the JSC so that it must take another 5 years, and they do nothing about it. In fact, it was very interesting when I was watching this week, when JP Mbenenge gave a view. He says he's the only one in the judiciary that was suspended before he appeared before the tribunal. Ordinarily, they must wait for the tribunal, and if there is a process to remove him, then he's then suspended. He was decrying the judiciary and the way it has dealt with certain issues pertaining to him. But let's go through this thing. And I think it's important that we say this, or I say this. Dying is not one thing I'm afraid of. I've never been scared of that thing. of dying. In fact, in my life, people will tell you that I don't wish for eternal life. It is not just in what I believe. So I know I'm not going to live forever, so there's no problem. If anything happens to me today, tomorrow, or any other day, because now they've leaked my security detail to everyone in South Africa to know how many bodyguards, how many cars, and all those things. They think they're threatening me. I'm not scared. It doesn't puzzle me, and I'm not fast. I really don't care whether one day they will come and through a bullet of an assassin, I'll lose my life. For me, it doesn't matter. It matters that we stick to the truth and do what is in the best interest of South Africa. Now, I'm going to take you this table of content quite quickly. I'm going to step off this suspension because I think my suspension, I've talked about it. All you need to know is that I'm on suspension because I was not at Scopa. But when I was supposed to be at Scopa, they had placed me on special leave. So they placed me on special leave on the 27th of May. They go to Scopa on the 28th. They then come back on the 3rd and say, we are placing you on suspension for not coming to Scopa on the day we had placed you on special leave. Absolute nonsense. But some judge in South Africa believes very strongly that they were right. Now, there are lies. People lie and they lie. And I'm gonna play you tapes. I'm gonna play you 2 tapes, audio, and I'm gonna play you a video of judges because they seem to want to ignore it and all that. And in there, I'm going to show you that one of the judges is now at the SCA. And I'm going to also show you that there are people that now have been promoted. When we complain to them, they did nothing about these complaints that we have. We'll show you. They look for evidence. We'll give them the evidence.
Echo my sentiments in recommending management on their residents
This is the chairperson of the RAF when we delivered our quarter 4 performance.
It's not an easy task working in an organization where everything is questioned, where everything that you do, is not clear and supported. So well done, management. I know that it's not easy. You make a lot of sacrifices. Personal, you sacrifice the time, the families. I mean, I was telling somebody that sometimes we get calls when, very early, before 6 o'clock in the morning. And then but then anyway, sometimes I feel that let's be checked. You can talk and but that's a major barrier. But I can imagine executives. I know I used to say to the previous board secretary that you guys don't have a life, but then we do appreciate the overall performance and the commitments that you do and the results always, really make us proud at the end of the day, despite all the challenges. So performance is sitting at 85%. Last year was 84%. And I think the CEO will go through it in detail in terms of his reporting. It is covered. There's 4 targets and no issue, but I'll have the CEO to cover them in his report. So thank you, members. There's no questions or comments. Shall we then approve the performance review report for follow-up to the end of the meeting?
Shall we complete from me as a board member now to management 100%?
Echo my sentiments in recommending management on their resilience and discipline to ensure that we get to where we are sitting at 85.9%. And it's not an easy task working in an organization where everything is questioned, everything that you do.
This is on the 29th of April.
So well done, management. I know that it's not easy. You make a lot of sacrifices. Personal, you sacrifice the time, the families. I mean, I was telling somebody that sometimes
go to, where do I move to the next one?
But then anyway, sometimes the triggers in change.
Okay, sorry. Let me just play this one.
Any questions for Mr. Yama on the 2024-2025 reports?
This is on the 27th of May, the day I was placed on special leave.
And while we waiting, yeah, no, I'd like to echo. I think we've done the report for Mr. Yama, you correctly stating that we really truly appreciate the leadership, CEO's leadership, Mr. Letsoalo, and really leading this organization under very extreme circumstances in the last 5 years. We are really proud of completing the past 5-year strategy with such outstanding results. I mean, we're sitting at about 85% overall average performance over the 5-year period. And really, it's not easy to achieve this type of performance, but you've made it possible, and not easily, but really we truly appreciate your leadership and all the executives really that have been behind you. You made us proud. We're still proud of you. And yeah, board members, yeah, that's all I can say on this. I've said it in our quarter 4 meeting. Yes, our draft APR, I don't see any hands on it. The other.
So the question becomes, and this was during the meeting, it was one of the last items on the agenda, our APR, which is Annual Performance Report of 2024-2025. We have achieved 85%. And I am celebrated as someone that pushed people even when they did not want to do work, including the board. And then that's the day I was put on leave. The story goes that there is a lot of things that are going on, and one of the things you're going to see is this capture that has engulfed the RAF. So I challenged this thing on I think everyone would have seen what happened on the 11th of June in the PCOT. I'm put on leave on the 3rd of June, on suspension. A lie is told that me and Mr. Modiba here were told about our suspensions. We had it with all of you at the same time. So when you were watching that PCOT hearing and you heard them saying in a presentation, we decided to change this thing because it was not legally sound and put him on suspension, I was hearing it with you at the same time. I only received my letter at 9:25 of that day. But fast track to the 11th of June, I have presented myself to to PCOT, and I've made my points there, and I think we agreed that I'm going to also put it in writing, which is something that I've been doing. Since the 11th of June, I don't know what's going on. I've been told that I'm on suspension, and that some, I don't know what they call it an inquiry or whatever they call it, will start. It has not started, nothing has been said to me so far. All I know is that they have decided to strategically leak my security detail. We went to court. When we went to court, I said to the court, there are documents that we can give you, but please just make sure that they are seen in camera by the judge. And then in the answering affidavit, the chair has decided to say how many assets I have and all that, deliberately trying to do that. So what are the facts? The facts are that on the 9th of June 2025, the audit committee clearly indicated that the concerns regarding the deponent's unlawful actions. So the chair has lied under oath, and I've opened the case. You'll see it is Brooklyn 432/6/2025. I have opened that case of perjury because she has perjured herself. There is a Judge Mushwana there that has decided to do funny things. He spent most of the time arguing on behalf of the RAF, for whatever reason he believes that that's the case. What is strange about South African law is that when we go back and ask for leave to appeal, we must ask the same guy. We must ask him for leave to appeal his case. Absolutely strange. Quite nonsensical in my view anyway. But then the chairperson changed her views 3 times about when did they appoint the lawyers. She firstly said it was on the 9th. No, she said it was on the 27th. He said, but on the 27th, I was not on suspension. So how did that happen? In our reply affidavit. She then wrote another affidavit to say, no, it happened on the 9th. We said, no, you could not have been on the 9th because you were already communicating with us on the 4th. She changed it again. She said, it happens on the 30th. 3 times. So they don't know when they took this decision. Judge Mushwana then decides that he's going to buy that idea without any confirmatory affidavit from anyone from the board. I had confirmatory affidavits from a board member that says, no, there were never minutes on the 27th of May. There were never minutes on the 9th of June. When she realizes that the confirmatory affidavit came, she then changed it to the 30th of June. So these things were simply ignored. My case was moved from the 14th of June. Sorry, yeah, was it? No, 17th of June to the 24th by the deputy judge president, under the guise that no, this thing has got public interest. It might be argued longer. Move it from this day to the 24th. And we agreed that it must be moved to the 24th. On the 24th, we arrived there. It had moved because there was a judge on the 17th. It was taken away from that judge, given to the judge on the, I think it was the 17th, then it was given to another judge the Friday before the 24th. And then that judge was now on Monday removed. On Tuesday when we arrived, the judge did not know that he was no longer on the case. He was removed and then Mushwana was put there. We changed the court 3 times. What is strange is that in the judgment of Mushwana, he's now saying I must pay the cost of the 24th or of the 17th, when it is the judge president that does that. So the judge president must pay those costs because he is the one that caused that delay. It's not me. No one, and he must tell me where those costs are going to come from. He must tell, if he's saying cost must be paid as wasted for the 17th, he must go and talk to his own boss. And let's see what they're going to do about it. But we have appealed, we'll deal with it. We have given him 38 grounds of appeal for this upset judgment that he has done. But I think one of the things that Sefotle mentions is we are dealing with something bigger. And I'm going to show you that we are dealing with something bigger. You hear people talking about, no, there's a liability at the RAF. The liability at the RAF is 300 million. They are hiding 300 billion. They are hiding the liability. There's no such a thing. The reality is that we are dealing with previously advantaged individuals who had cornered the RAF, and they continue to do that. And they buy people. They buy people, and I'm saying it without any flinching. And they must actually sue me. They buy people. They tried to buy me. I refused. How do they buy you? They take you to fishing. I refused fishing. They have been trying to get me to every other thing. If they want to argue, I can issue that. I have got that. Let's go fishing. No, my brother, no, I don't do that thing. But it would seem that they used to do it. Because if you look at the Malamet Commission of 1992, you will see that, in fact, the monies that were collected in the fuel levy were paid to a private company. It's not me, it's Malamet. The report says it is surprising given that the MMF is a privatized company, not a government department, and the government merely collects a levy for the MMF. We are funding this company. The question is, it was in private hands. Who was owning it? It's 1992. Our dispensation was 1994. Now, during that time, Melamed also tells us that there was a strange thing about acceptance of gifts and proper benefits. That gifts and other benefits are given by assessors, agents, and attorneys to staff members of the MMF. This private company was getting this, apparently as a permissible practice. It's not me, it's Melamed. Go and look at the report. Right? What then happens? These people that are in the MMF are then absorbed in 1996 into the RAF. Some of them come from these insurance companies, but in the main, people at the MMF are absorbed into RAF. So this thing of trips to Sun City, hunting trips, boat trips continues unabated. So this thing of corruption is black and nah, those people are not black. Go and check Melamed, who was interviewed. You're not going to find a black person there. Now, Sefotle also, there are 7 commissions of inquiry into this thing since its inception in 1946. And every time there are recommendations, they are never taken through. We are the only management that took them through. And hence, maybe we are outside. Now, the issue around foreigners, it's there in Sefotle. So there must be a limitation. Meaning, if there is, for instance, an emergency, this person must be stabilized like they do in other countries, and they must go home. But you must be here legally. Right? Must be here legally. That's a fact. People can fight about that all they want. That's a fact. What are you going to find? Most of these foreigners go to white firms. You're going to get a shock of your life, because a lot of them that say, no, the money is due to us, is that, and you will see it with why they are the ones that are actually fighting this cause. Because what do? Once they get that money, they keep it. Imagine an illegal foreigner saying, you owe me. What is going to do? Take you to the police station? You don't want to do that. So they do that. They know that they can exploit these people. But then let's talk to the real issue of what is this thing. There is a phantom liability, what we call a fake liability that is formulated. But you see it where? And you are going to see it. I'm going to show you. You must remember this part, because you are going to see what APRAF says to finance to National Treasury. There is a policy position paper in 2011 issued by the then Minister of Transport. I don't know who wrote that thing. I doubt he understood what the context of each was. But the reality is this. What they wanted to do was to separate 2 things. A thing called RAPS, which is Road Accident Benefit Scheme, and the RAF. The RAF's liabilities were going to be paid. Listen to what they say. They say, RAF is presently funded in the fuel levy imposed on fuel sold, but it will be discontinued. And a new fuel levy will be allocated to RAPSA when established. So this money will go to the agency, Road Accident Benefit Scheme Agency. And then listen to this part, which is going to be important for you to understand. Provision will be made through the fiscus to address the accumulated unfunded liability of the RAF. They are saying the budget is going to be made. They will get a budget to pay for this. This one will start from a clean slate. It's like your own father saying, you can take as many debts as possible. In the next 10 years, I'm going to pay all of them. That's a perverse incentive that you must just go and bulk up liabilities. But they didn't do that. They created them when they didn't have them. The Financial Services Board in 2011 says this about the RAF, that it is actually fundamentally a social benefit fund. And it says this, that the RAF business model is not based on insurance principles, as premium payable does not directly correlate with the benefits provided. This thing, they are taking it. But if you look at it, the IMF as well, says that the net implicit obligations for future social security benefits are not recognized as liabilities. It's not us. If you don't believe us, believe them. But at the same time, there is this thing within where suddenly the AG is saying, change this thing, account like an insurer, and do all those things. Why they are saying that? ASB is saying the same. ASB comes and says, you must account like an insurer. And that happens. And what happens? The liability starts to balloon. These liabilities go up to 302 billion. But you will see it at the end where they say, the approach is not taken in main tables because it is considered that social security schemes, other than employment-related pension schemes, do not result in contractual liability for government. That is, there's no direct link between the contributions made and the benefits eventually payable. So what are they saying? They are saying the state can say, because we are going to all of us turn 60 at some point, they put this in the liability in their books. It's absolute nonsense to say that. So what then happens, and you are going to see it here, look at that. This is in 2025. In 2020, we look at the liability and we reduce it by 304 billion from 320 billion using IPSAS standard called IPSAS 42. No. What is interesting, we are still sitting with that liability in our books. 4 years we have given the National Treasury, this is our liability, and you will see it. That liability, they are saying it is going to grow to about 368 in 24-25. And we don't have that liability in our books as we see it even today. But it's still there. What is interesting, somewhere in when we changed this thing, in 2020, the IMF then raises this issue. After the RAF was formulated in 1996 and says, we think you must change the way the RAF is classified. Who are they telling? They are telling the public sector classifications committee. And the RAF is reassessed again. And they come back and they say, no, RAF is a social security fund. Now, look at the fiscal risk statement. It says that this thing is going to grow to 422.6 billion in 2027. So what happens? We arrive in RAF in 2019, as Sefotle says. We are approached by a guy called Mwakumutaloa, who says, I've been asked by Discovery to give you this thing. What is that? An offer. To close this liability, give us 250 billion. And then we'll focus on the liability, we are going to focus on RAPs. And I said, what nonsense is this? How does private sector give the state 70 billion? This does not make sense. It means the liability is not worth 320. And indeed, as I'm telling you, we went back, we did the actual liability, and the actual liability was sitting at less than 20 billion. We reduced that liability by 304 billion. And that's exactly what they were going to do, because there's no liability there. We would have signed with them. They would have the 250 billion. We would have committed to the 250 billion that does not exist, and they would have applied this and then came back and made that whole money. You see it with what? Today, we then did a thing called a Road Accident Fund Amendment Bill, and you will see the complaints of an entity called APRAF, Association for Protection of Road Accident Victims. It's just lawyers in there. There's not even a single road accident victim in there. Headed by Herdner, formulated by him. And we are going to see how he has captured some even in Scopa. Okay? So, we have this thing of this liability that is sitting there. There is no such a thing that liability does not exist, South Africans. It doesn't. Now, we did this and we move forward. We write to National Treasury, why are you doing this? They have not answered us until today. And we are saying, and every time you talk about this liability, no, withdraw this thing from the Constitutional Court. Why? Because people want to go back. And when they failed, they realize we are failing. They go back. They remove the Road Accident Fund Amendment Bill. They go back and they say, let's go back to that RAPSA thing of separating this thing into two. Because we were saying, you don't have to separate into two. This is rough. We are going to work on it. You are saying it's not workable. You are saying it will be at 54 billion. We will reduce this over time. That's how we took the 50 billion away from the lawyers, and we took that money back into the fund. And that's why he's talking about 8 billion that we've saved. Here is the presentation by the AGSA. If you don't believe us, believe them. They say, a material asserted ongoing concern was reported as an entity as solvency challenges with liability exceeding assets. Management disclosed the uncertainty as well as mitigating factors in the annual financial statement. Consequently, we concluded that the going concern basis is appropriate. We arrived there, they were asking for letters of comfort. Today, the AG say we conclude that the going concern basis of accounting is appropriate. Meaning, we are dealing with it as a going concern. When we arrived, there were going concern issues. Right. You see it. 8.4 billion deficit reduced to 1.6 billion in that year, 23-24. They are auditing now. We are quite confident that this thing will come even lower, because that's what we've been doing, right? We've been doing very well in turning around the RAF. There is the performance of RAF. When we arrived, it was sitting at 57%. It's not us. If you don't believe us, believe the AG. This was presented to SCOPA on the 11th of March, right? And I hear the chairperson of SCOPA going and saying, oh, what does an chief investment officer do in RAF? You are just running around managing a bank account. You heard how extensive this thing is. People must stop talking about things they know nothing about. We want their qualifications now. We are sick and tired of this thing, right? So you have got young boys wet behind their ears being put to do the work that this man has done over 20 years, simply because they are white. They are not vetted, and no one is making noise. Hey, where is the vetting? What vetting? What is vetting actually? People don't even understand the difference between screening and vetting. What is vetting? Because the vetting that happens in the state is vetting in terms of MIS, which is documents. Top secret. There's nothing top secret at RAF. Nothing top secret. In any event, we are prepared to be vetted. There's no problem. I have said we are prepared to even give you our bank account. We don't have a problem. No one pays us. We don't have a problem. We are not scared. Now, let's deal with the issue of judicial misconduct. Because, we keep on being told, no, you don't have evidence and all that. When we removed, and this is the issue about RAF, it's about this panel that people wanted. It took 3.8 billion a year from RAF. RAF used to pay 10.6 billion worth of legal costs. But I'm going to show you the capture of this judiciary and how indifferent they are when you start to say, but one of you is misbehaving. They close rank. I saw them yesterday closing rank, coming all of them. We have got correspondence between us, and then I'm going to show you. Today I'm just going to deal with only one matter about the panel. And I'm going to show you all the others of how they squeeze the system, they change the rules, they use directive to change rules so that we must have this problem that is at the RAF, and they want to come and say, no, these guys are creating a problem by not having the panel. And it went all the way to the Constitutional Court, by the way. It is Mabunda versus the RAF. We trounced them all the way to the Constitutional Court. And the rationality of that decision was tested. It is only used Madondo who is now at the SCA, that did not see that that was lawful. And I'm going to show you, because she used to own Use Madondo Incorporated that was on the panel. But she sat there and did funny things. Let's go through it. So we present a matter in front of her that was brought by Fori Fisma, the very same issue around the panel and the way it is going to be dealt with, whether the SLA will expire and all that. So they bring this white law firm for Fisma. Now, this thing was expiring on the 31st of May 2020. So we go to court somewhere in between. The judge had promised that by the 31st, we will have a judgment. Something strange happens. A law firm says to a judge, during the hearing of the matter, the need for the judgment to be delivered on the 31st of May 2020 received attention. This is on Sunday, the 31st of May 2020. But listen to this. We are acutely mindful of the practical pressures of the judiciary at the moment, particularly in light of the constraint imposed by lockdown. In those circumstances, if it is for any reason not possible for the Honorable Judge Use J to deliver a full judgment by today, the applicants respectfully request that an order be delivered today. Someone telling the judge that on a Sunday afternoon at 5:43 p.m. with reasons to follow thereafter. Someone is telling the judge what to do. But you are going to see what then happens. A very interesting phenomenon. It doesn't happen. So it means midnight, this thing lapses by a fraction of time. It simply expires. So this story that, no, they did away with the panel, no. It expired. Now on the 1st at 9:50 a.m., 10 to 10 in the morning, look at what happens from our own lawyers, Van Green and attorneys. We have been advised that the judgment will be sent to us after tea, isn't it? After tea. I don't know when tea is, but usually it's 11 o'clock in court, but after tea. But look at what happens. Aha! On the very same day, an overzealous somebody does something, takes this thing to us, all of us. How? 9:56, 6 minutes later. Remember, this thing was sent at 9:50. At 9:56, 6 minutes later, the guy that asked for the order is given the order. Strangely, the counsel is also included. So there's a counsel called Etienne Labuscagni, who was the counsel, meaning the SC. This is the lawyer. We always work like this, in my understanding. You work. When things come back from court, they actually go through. The correspondence between the court is through your lawyers. It's not usually through counsel. But it's only the two of them that receive this thing. It's not copied to anyone else. But I'm going to show you something strange that happens. They say, kindly find attached the order in which the rest of the judgment will be sent later. That's exactly what he wanted. But he wanted it yesterday. They are bringing it today, 6 minutes after telling us that, no, this thing is going for tea. After tea. So it's being done. Interesting. The same, the secretary to Honorable Judge Hughes. There is the order. Strange. The order is not signed. The order is not signed. On that day of the 1st, we are inundated with social media. Someone overzealous, they showed him, leaks this thing, it's all in social media. Hey guys, have you got this order? No. Our lawyers say, have you got the order? No. Hey man, but the order is in there. The order is out there. But this order does not have a signature. Hi man, maybe these guys are wrong, man. Usually it must come on a letterhead, you know. It must come on a letterhead. It's an order. But no, it's true. This is the attachment that we have. But I want you to look at something. It's on page 33, if you look at it. It's on paragraph 84. Right? So, fast track on that day, around 4, we received the judgment. Bah! Look at the page. It's now signed. Page number 32. Paragraph number 88. Right? You see what's happening? On top of that, on that page, there are 2 sentences that are missing from the one that was running in social media. Let's go forward. Now, I've just shown you the difference between the two because I wanted to give you a sense of the two. Now, let's go forward. Aye, man, this is something wrong. We discussed with our lawyers. They say, no, we can't write. They are scared. I say, I'm writing. What? I'm writing. We must put this for the record. Because the one day we will be asked to give evidence about judicial bias and corruption. One day. And if that day has arrived, it's today. So, here is the letter I write to Honorable Judge Mlambo, the JP of the division. And the Honorable Judge Pottery, who was the acting DJP at the time. And I say, I want clarity. I want clarity. My clarity was simple. I say, I had my own reservations. We had our own reservations about Use Madondo sitting over the matter, and we were told, no, she sold the law firm. So don't worry. So these guys actually sell law firms. Others give law firms to their nieces and nephews. And those law firms, apparently, they no longer have an interest in. When I take this thing and I give to my brother's son, how do I not have an interest in it? How is it even possible that I won't have any? I built the firm myself. Over years, I built it up. The day I go to the bench, I give it to my son. Or it's my son, because that's my brother's son is my son. So I give it to my son and I say, well, I've got no interest. We are told there's no interest. And we are saying to them, we explain what happened, what I was explaining to you. But we ask questions. We raise these issues I'm raising. We say, at a glance, there appears to be nothing suspect about that said email. However, on close observation, the following becomes apparent. 6 minutes later, page 33, paragraph 84, all these things that I've told you about. We say that to the judge president. Right? In 19 of that letter, we say, 19.1, how did the order find its way to Mr. Fourie and Libuskachny at 9:56 in the morning? At least 6 minutes after we were informed that we will get the judgment after tea. Why was it sent only to the first applicant and not the other parties? Was this a draft order? And if it was, then how did the first applicant get a draft sent to them before the judgment or the order was finalized? Why was the order not on the court letterhead and unsigned? Why is the order now on page 32 and paragraph 88 and not page 33 and paragraph 84? If it was edited, who was responsible for the editing? And when was this done? Was it before or after 9:56 on the 1st of June 2020? What did Mr. Fourie know when he requested that an order be delivered today with reasons to follow later? Unless you knew that you're going to win the case, why would you want the judge to deliver so quickly? Was he aware of the outcome and wanted to prevent the SLA terminating before the order, which ordered its extension, was delivered? Now, let me tell you a story. The judge delivers the judgment on the 1st of June and said, a contract that ended yesterday, I'm extending it. Absolutely ridiculous. And the SCA has said that. The SCA said that is ridiculous. Judge Colapen also saw the ridiculousness of it when we went for 18.4, I think it was. Is it common practice that applicants and any parties get draft judgment? Was there any communication between the Honorable Judge Yus Madondo and any of the parties in the intervening period between the hearing and the delivery of the judgment? Does Honorable Judge Yus Madondo have any relationship, personal or professional or personal, with any of the erstwhile panel attorneys, especially Yus Madondo Incorporated? Remember that person was, I think it was applicant number 50 or respondent number 50. And we had our own reservations. Now, I'm going to play you this thing. Because they blocked, I think when it was released, people that went underground, they blocked the face of the people that were talking. You would think we recorded them somewhere. Let me put it for the record. It was at a hearing of the RAF on a RAF Form 1 that was rejected. That was on an urgent basis in front of Judge Vuihlapi. And it's in open court. Remember, when you are online, the court is the virtual platform. So, this is
establishing everything. I said, this looks like ways in game. Now they are using you, they are using your intelligence and your writing skills. No, the wrong accident, man. No,
What am I doing? You are recording yourself. Yeah. So, there it is. We are told judges never talk to each other. I don't know if it was during the Thorpe case or not, but we are told all these things. That there they are. The very same judge, by the way, that did what was done on the 1st of June. On that, then that's what happens. Now, let's step off the judiciary. Let's deal with issues of repurposing and weaponizing state institutions for purpose of getting rid of some of us. Okay? So, for the SIU to come to the road accident fund, I was instrumental in it. It was when we found out that there was a project Senza. By the way, the service provider in project Senza is Medskin, the very one that was found to be doing racial profiling, I think on Monday. In project Senza. We can't investigate it further, and the idea was that let's give it to SIU to investigate further because they've got other powers. And there were others that were there, including this 1.2 billion. By the way, when we arrived at the panel was supposed to be changed, and they were going to charge us 4 rands per page for the document they were going to give us in copies, and that was going to cost us 1.3 billion. We had to remove that thing. It didn't make sense why 4 rands a page. It didn't make sense, but we did that. So those are things that must be investigated by the SIU. We agreed, and we agreed with the SIU. We ended up with a thing called a letter of engagement, where they said this is how we are going to investigate and all that. But at some point, the SIU starts developing some fun tendencies we don't understand. Firstly, they keep on going to Scopa. Now remember, we don't realize Scopa is already somewhere amongst them are captured. Then we say, no, it's okay. They go, we ask them, but what is, no, we must report to Parliament. No, but Scopa does not deal with those matters, by the way. You report to the president, go and read your own act. No, we disagree. I said, let's leave them, it's okay. We didn't know that will come to bite us because they went. They claim that when we present these things, we never put names of people. That's fine. So what then happens? Somewhere along the way, a lot of other things happen. But the most interesting one was this letter. This letter comes from the Minister of Transport. Out of the blue, man. I mean, this is what happens. So on the 27th of February, the board agrees to my reappointment. On the 29th, I think, of April, they approved the REMCO submission on the motivation. On the 14th of May, the 360 gets finalized, which is, well, stakeholders were supposed to comment apparently about my performance and whether I'm the right person or whatever they were asked to do, the 360. Then, on the 27th of May, they were supposed to finalize that. But guess what happens? On the, I think the 16th of May, after this finalization of the 360, a letter comes. You must read this letter. It says allegations of hindrance or interference with the investigation of the SIU. We had been worried about the SIU because they kept on saying, no, but you are not giving us information. So what information? Who's not giving you information? And they kept on just making noise about this thing. Then we heard from the grapevine, they want to come and raid your offices, so they are preparing. The aim is actually to come and embarrass you with the raid. So they are preparing. We said, no, we engage them. Tell us exactly what you mean. You don't have information, we'll give you all the information. So they see it's not working. So they go somewhere, they start talking about this thing of hindrance. Listen to this. The minister as well. She says, kindly be advised that it has come to my attention that, listen to the next sentence, there are some allegations of some form of hindrance or interference with the investigation of the SIU on the RAF matters by some executive and some staff members of RAF. I'm adored. What is that? It has come to her attention that there are some allegations of some form of hindrance. So it doesn't say some hindrance, no, some form of hindrance. What is that? So this thing, on the 20th of May, the board sits and looks at it and says, we don't know what the minister means. Maybe we must ask her, is it SIU saying that? Is it Scopa? Who is saying this? Because she just say, it has come to my attention that there is some sort of allegations of some form of hindrance. Innocently, we say, maybe the minister is just misled. We don't know. We don't know by who. But listen to this. The chairperson is alerted to this kind of behavior so that you may warn the executives and the staff to refrain from such conduct as they may face suspension or disciplinary hearing or criminal prosecution should these allegations be proved to be true. Remember, we are the ones that called SIU. We know those things. We call them. We implored on Minister Mbalula to ask the president to sign this thing, this proclamation, because we thought it's important that we do that. And we can't, there's no way. But here's the letter that we received. Remember I said on the 14th of May, this thing was finalized. Now you see, look at this one. On the 20th, we write a letter. But you see, when we write, the letter is written on the 22nd. We meet on the 20th. On the 22nd, the RAF writes a letter. And in, I think, 3.4 of that, it decries the fact that the SIU is not answering. It has been a month. And they are telling people we are hindering. When they have not even responded to us, they say, I refer to your letter dated 24 April. It's on the 23rd of May. This is people that are hindering. But they are not answered. Okay? Look at this. So they then answer. They say, the investigation is currently at an advanced stage, including the process to grant the affected parties the right of reply. Based on further consideration of the current stage of the investigation, we are of the view that presenting to the RAF board before the right of reply process is finalized would not be prudent. It's them, it's not us. They then say we will consider the request to present to RAF board after completion of the investigation process, including the right of reply process to affected parties. Look at 15, very important. Should you require any further information or clarification, please don't hesitate to contact the SIU Chief Operations Officer, Mr. El Kheto Jadada. Remember my suspension? On the 3rd of June. Remember my special leave? On the 27th of May. Watch what happens. notwithstanding those provisions, on the 1st of June, people love Sundays, on a Sunday, at 15:12. Now, the chairperson of the board is now writing to the head of the SIU. Remember, it's not that person that is in 15. She was told that if you want any further thing to do with this, correspond with this person. She now corresponds with someone else. She says, Scopa meeting best reference. But remember, she received a letter on the 23rd of May saying, we are not going to do this. But what it says is, given the tight deadlines imposed by Scopa, the Minister of Transport on RAF board to act and respond back on these matters, we need assistance from your office to respectively request that you furnish us with a detailed preliminary investigation report with specific findings on critical aspects of this investigation, not later than the end of business tomorrow, the 2nd of June. How? These ones that took a month not to respond. There. They respond. 2nd of June. But you must remember, these people on the 3rd of June, they are called to PCOT. They know they are appearing in front of the Portfolio Committee on Transport. They then abandon the prudence. They give them all these things. They are looking for charges. They can't find them. Okay? Now, here is another one. Enter Scopa, because Scopa has always been the one that fights with us. Why are we fighting with Scopa and everything? You see those people there? The second, I think it must be on your left, is Gertner. The third guy is a Scopa member. The fourth short guy is a Scopa member. The one on the right is a Scopa member. This thing is on a Gertner. It's a victory photo. And then he says, I am proud of the part we played in bringing the inquiry of Scopa. That's what Gertner says. You see? I want to show you what happens with this Scopa, because it's very important. And this apparatus. Here is a letter that is written to the National Treasury on the 3rd of October 2023. This is after we had a visit in our offices by Scopa. And then immediately after we had released, I think in September, the amendment bill, they then write a letter. Now, to the National Treasury. But they're going to tell you more about Scopa than anything else in this letter. Since our presentation to the RAF has been in the news for a myriad of reasons, from the RAF board and his CEO being ordered to personally pay legal costs. You must remember that legal cost thing that Logodi did in Mpumalanga. You must not forget it. Where he slapped us with personal cost orders when we had nothing to do with the matter. It was overturned in the SCA. Introducing measures, challenging litigation, recognized legal principles, whatever they are saying. But most notably was a recent visit by members of Scopa to RAF. All these things people say. Being published in Parliament website about their findings. Then they raise to say the RAF offices are not conducive for working is an understatement. Why RAF is in the public domain for the wrong reasons, we have experienced it today. Now we have recognized the magnitude of its problem. The AG does not even want to touch RAF because there is no integrity in doing so. How? I've just shown you what the AG says about us. Just shown you. They say these things. But they are using these things to achieve a certain thing. You must remember the issue about the phantom liability. You are going to see it rearing its ugly head here. Then they say, refusal to let members of SCOP to conduct oversight over it constitute a violation of the Constitution and is indication of something untoward going on at RAF. I don't know whether they have got an objective test that is better than that of the AG, but nevertheless, here is the part. Number 7. You see, they say, Mr. Tlangwa went on to suggest maybe there needs to be a forensic investigation on financial management of the RAF, unveil what lies in these messy affairs, because the great risk of RAF is RAF itself. Deputy Minister would like to get the report on RAF efficacy in 30 days because what is going on at RAF is a national disaster. This is UPRAF. What are they using? The words of the then chairperson of SCOPA, who is now a deputy minister. Now, look at what they say. Neither the RAF nor the Department of Transport made any mention when they indeed busy settling a draft bill that intends to address the RAF dismal performance. SCOPA's concerns. They are speaking on behalf of SCOP. Here. 5. They continue. You see that those two men, they are Hartnell and his associate. They are always at SCOP. You must see them. They are always at SCOP. And those ones that you saw them in the picture there with them, they always ask questions that don't make sense to us. They never ask, hey, these thieves that stole 1.2 billion, what is happening to them? Never. They never do that. But it is our respectful submission that the bill was kept from SCOPA, as it would have most certainly been met with same contempt expressed by public, and since it was published, as it offends the Constitution in almost every amended section hereof, and is a clear attempt to limit oversight of SCOPA, amongst others, and legitimate RAF recent failures in court and assuming itself power to create subordinate legislation. They don't talk anything about themselves. They're talking about SCOPA. But here's the thing. Number 10. Experience has taught that a lot of taxpayers' money and parliamentary time would be saved by timeously providing the relevant information, allowing for clear and concise input, commentary, and participation. Who is this guy? He's not elected by anyone, this Hartnell. Because it's him. It's his company. This organization is his. Especially on funding model to be applied. The source of the funding for this bill, how the dual funding will be managed, the RAF Act versus the bill, since the claims in terms of RAF will take 5 years to process and the fuel levy is the source of funding by law, and the long-term implications of the fiscals, and most important, the impact on the public. Do you see that fake liability is coming back? Because we are saying, let's fix this. There is no need for duality here. They want it back. Now, you would see it that they continue to talk about SCOPA and all that. And I think for me, that must tell you the story. So, we have given you a sense. And I think it was difficult last night to actually go through these things and try to make this thing condensed into what you would see as this capture, what you would see at this attack, what you would see at this corruption that is going on, and what you would see as people closing rank. Simply closing rank. This video was out. It has been out there in social media for a very long time. They're just ignoring it, like, no, it doesn't exist, and all that. As people continue as they wish. Imagine if there was a video like this about a Collins Letsoalo. I'm sure, I'll be buried by now. So, the reality is this. We have a problem, South Africa. And some of us are going to stand up for the truth, no matter the cost. If at the end of the day I'm no longer a CEO of RAF, then let it be. Why? Because I want to tell the truth. Why? Because we have saved 50 billion and we've taken it away from people that looting. Why? Because we changed a liability that was going to discovery of 250 billion arrangement. And they must do it again. By the way, they've gone back to say, we are now going to this dual thing. We receive a letter from the deputy minister somewhere in the middle of March that says, we have decided to change, to go back and abandon the amendment bill. And we said, why are you abandoning the amendment bill? They have never met with us. Never. Never. When they decided that thing on the 30th, they never met with us. So who is busy feeding them these things? But I can assure you, they've met Hertner. I can assure you, they have met the Bureau of Healthcare Funders. I can assure you, they have met Paul Belsky. I can assure you, they have met everyone else except the people that are running the RAF. Then they come with things that changes the system. When the 6th administration had said to us, deal with these things in this way, we did not send ourselves to RAF. We didn't. We didn't just wake up one day and walk out of Department of Transport and I find myself as acting CEO at RAF. I was called. And I was convinced. And I was told that you are going to be given support because I said, are you going to support me, Minister? And Minister Mbaula said, you are going to get our support. Fully so. There's no question about it. Well, you are not even at liberty to ask such a question. And I said, it's because of my experiences that I'm asking that question. He says, no, we are going to support you. We have not got the support. Instead, this bill is sitting in the department. There is I think the second one is what? It's the actuarial calculator is sitting there. The tariffs, the medical tariffs are sitting there in the department. The limitation to the funeral benefit is sitting in the department. Right? Any challenge that we have, things are sitting in there and they never move an inch and they've never met with us. So the question must be, who are they listening to? Who are they listening to? Suddenly these ones that we found, the CFO, the acting CFO that we found there, the guy of duplicate payments, no thing, all those guys are now suddenly whistleblowers. Someone says, my what do they call it? My email is full with this from RAF. This is the chairperson of Scopa. And then he runs around telling people, give me information. Why doesn't he use the one he has? Why doesn't he use the one he has? So we are not going to sit here and be aligned like this. By the way, we hear that people are now asking about where our bank accounts are. The deputy minister is asking about the bank accounts of the RAF and where we bank our money. The AG knows where we bank our money. Why does he want to know? To do what with that information? So that he can tell his lawyer friend to go and attach the money where it is. Right? So we are not going to accept that. But if we do, in any event, we must say this to ourselves as South Africans, that we will continue with this perpetual way of not turning around the RAF, because people are not serious about it. They must not pay lip service to it. We have asked for this bill to be done, and we said quickly. They are saying they are bringing RAPs back, and that will be in 2930. Because what are they waiting for? They want to bulk up the liability again. They have now been telling us that the liability is now 422 billion, which we don't know where they get it from in terms of the calculations. So it is the battle for the 300 billion liability. There's nothing else. So you will see us out here because we were on special leave when we can't go to Cape Town. But we are put on suspension because we were not in Cape Town, or we were not at the Scopa hearing because I was in Cape Town. So we are ready to go to the PCOT to make our submissions. We are ready for any inquiry, by the way. I know they won't call that inquiry. They're going to come with a story of anything. They must bring that inquiry. We must face our accusers. They must come there and say, Letsoalo, we have done the following. And I must also cross-examine them so that they must come and say those things they say. So we are undeterred. If we have got to starve my brother, we are going to starve. But it doesn't matter to us. Yes. It doesn't matter to us. We know Rome was never built in one day. We choose to be the Mandelas. If it takes us 27 years, let it be. But we are undeterred. And we know people are going to say, no, they're arrogant. I agree they say I'm arrogant. When I say I'm good at what I do, yes, I am. Show me someone who has saved 50 billion. Show me. Show me. You had my predecessors. Go and check their performance and my performance. And then you do the calculations. What are you scared of? The 360. Release the 360 outcome. What is it saying? Is it not something that you thought that it will come and say something you don't like? By the way, lawyers went into my 360. They did the 360. Everyone was called. All and sundry, come and assess this guy. I've been assessed. Let them release the 360. Why are they not releasing it? It's state money that they used. They've been releasing stuff. They are even releasing the information about my security. But they don't want to release the 360. Let them release the 360. Let them release all this information that I'm telling about. The resolutions of the 27th of February, the resolutions of the 29th of April, and all these things. They must release them so that you know about them. They must release the minutes of the 27th. They must release all these minutes so that people must know and count for themselves. We are not scared. I'm not. So let's face it head on. What are they going to do? What? I've got more than 1,000, what do they call it? Contempt of courts. 180 of them are brought by a company called Sprite Incorporated. They go in front of the DJP of Gauteng here, and then the DJP is told, no, condense them into one. And he says, no, we'll deal with them as they come. And then he complains about the cost being clocked. Some of them say to me, you are notorious. When I meet them, my bosses, they say, no, you're just notorious. Notorious for what? For telling the truth. Calling me notorious. I don't care. But what you are not going to do is malign my name. That's the only thing I have. Integrity. I don't have a big chunk. I'm not a guy with a silver spoon. I come from Sishio. That's where I come from. So I'm undeterred. So if the battle is coming, let's have that battle. But I'm telling you, why I'm showing you this, where this comes from. From the 2020, we have litany of these things, where judge presidents walk with files and they take them home. And when the matters must be heard, they say the judge president has left with the file. What is he doing with it? When it's allocated already. So we have a lot. We can't push it, my brother, in a short space of time. But let's hear what the questions will be. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ntate Modiba and Ntate Letsoalo. Colleagues, I see Skara already has his hand up. This is the time for questions. I'll start with Skara. I looked at his hand. And then Benedict. In a second, do we have any other one?